again, something I wish that I could, so many things that I wish I could tell them and say to them. Of course, they wouldn't believe life on this planet right now, but I just, I don't think that they would believe everything that I have been through and everything with this house and everything that's happened since they died. They would not believe it. And I just wish, you know how you just wish you could get their reactions to things? Like, that's what I want. That's what I miss is I miss their reactions to things, among other things.
Do you still look for their approval?
I mean,
I mean, beyond their reaction.
I have a list of, well, let me preface this by saying the last coherent thing that my mother said to me was, and I quote, Allison, take care of the house. That was the last thing she said to me. I have a piece of notebook paper, my mom's handwriting, and everything that had to be done around this house. Things that had to be fixed, things that needed to be thrown away, painted, outside stuff done. Granted, a lot of that stuff needed to be done, but I've been going through that list because going back to, I still don't think of this as my house. I think of it as mom's house. But yeah, my parents, and let's just get this out there. My parents were not I love you and hug parents. They weren't. That's not who they were. My mother only hugged me if I was about to board a plane to go to another country. Like, that's the only time my mother hugged me. I can count on one hand the number of times my dad hugged me.
Right.
And it was like high school graduation, college graduation. And then when I went out to California 2 months after my mom died, my dad sidearmed hugged me before I got on the plane. That was it. I can remember 3 times in my life when my dad hugged me. They were not "I love you" parents. The only time I can remember my mother saying "I love you" to me is when she found out she had the tumor in her colon. We were at Williamson Medical. It was that night, and it was the night that she decided to come home with hospice, and she didn't wanna take treatment. And I leaned over the bed and I hugged her because I was gonna come home and get stuff and then come back the next day. And she hugged me and said she loved me. And she would write it in a card. Now she gave me a birthday card. She'd write it in the card. She'd write "Love Mom." But like, I mean, that's just not something that was ever said. So maybe on some level you seek approval. You seek approval because you're hoping for something. But I mean, I know I'm never gonna get it. It's you know that you're not gonna get it. The same way that you know they're not really on a trip. They're not really coming back through the door. But again, it's time. You're trying to you're still fighting with time. And it's that battle with time. And even when I knew that both mom and dad were dying and were not gonna make it, you still got that battle with time. Well,
Yeah.
how much time? You don't know how much time. So do you say the thing now? Do you say the thing then?
When you get to the last thing on the list, are you going to be able to do it?
I don't know. I mean, there and some things on the list are not possible anymore, but it's odd. It's just such a weird thing because again, we were talking about anger. So I get so angry sometimes because one of the things on the list was replace all the windows in the house, which I've done. Do you know how easy it was to replace all the windows in the house? 2 days. 2 days it took. 2 days it took one guy to do.
Right.
And I'm like, now it wasn't cheap, but it had to be done because they were panes were broken. A couple of the like some of the windows in here were quite literally falling out of the frame because of structural issues with the house, which I also had to fix. But I wish things like that, I wish I could look at mom and dad now and be like, it was so easy to do. Like, why? But they could not, neither one of the, I mean, they could not make a decision to save their lives. And I guess that's why they made me power of attorney for healthcare, so that they wouldn't have to make a decision to save their life.
During the pandemic, my side door at my mother's house, the one that was used to go over to my grandmother's house,
Mhm.
you know, 10 steps. The side door catches a lot of sun. Strange angle, but somehow it catches a lot of sun. And the frame around the little window of that steel door, the mold around it, like not mold, but the molding
Yeah.
had caught enough sun that it had just dried up and wrinkled up and was basically falling off the door.
Yeah.
The screen door no longer shut properly from where that house is settled, but from where they've like had to try to jerk it into the frame or where the wind had blown it open,
Right.
the glass was loose and just shook inside the door. And for the better part of the pandemic and the last 2 years, it was just taped with scotch tape. The glass is just scotch taped into the frame. And at the beginning, it was like every 6 weeks. Hey, replace the door. Call and replace the door. Call so and so. Let's get a door. Let's get it replaced. Oh, okay. 6 weeks later, we'd have the same conversation. And then it became 4 weeks, and then it became 2 weeks. And it wasn't until this last year, I'm like, we were in Lowe's. I was looking for a bin or something when we passed by the doors and a big sign for door installation. I'm like, while we're here, let's go ahead. So we scheduled a door installation.
Just do it.
Had the guy come out and do it. It was 2 hours.
Yeah.
They had to take out the frame. 2 hours. Done. They replaced the door at my mother's house. They replaced 2 doors down here at the duplex. They were gone. Easy peasy. Was it costly? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But it's done.
But it's done.
But it's done.
Yeah.
Your roof needs to be replaced.
Been through that too.
It's raining in the attic. You need to replace the roof. Get it done.
So I don't know if you remember or if I told you, speaking of roofs, when my mom died, I was sleeping on a mattress in the floor in the sunroom
Right.
because the roof had been, mom died in February. The roof had been replaced in August. We had an old metal roof on there. They had to replace it and put shingles back down. Over my bedroom, I had like a little half bath in there. The half bath and my closet, it's where the roof sort of makes this little number.
Yeah.
And because the metal roof was not installed correctly several years prior, water was always coming in my bathroom and in my closet. And I would tell my dad about it. I would take videos, and he would be like, there's no water coming in this house. Like, unless it happened specifically to my dad, he'd never believed it. And the one time it was absolutely pouring and it was raining in my bathroom, which my bathroom window was actually under the front porch and water was raining inside my bathroom. I'm like, hey, so can we do something about this? I would put towels down. I would, and so finally, my mom comes back there and she's like, why, David, there is water coming in there. And once my mother saw it, then we got a new roof. But
Then
but because of all the water damage in my bathroom and my closet and half my bedroom, it had to be gutted because there was mold. So when mom died, I had pretty much moved out to the sunroom. And while they gutted my bedroom and bathroom and closet. So when mom died, I had no bedroom. Like my bedroom was bare. It was just all this to say that's another layer of the complicated grief is also not being able to be in your safe space at the time that you're dealing with a major death. That was, yeah, because, and I've thought about if the roof had just been replaced sooner, then my bedroom could have been fixed sooner. And then I could have been sleeping in my bedroom when mom died, but I wasn't. And where the sunroom
at
is,
your
yeah, and where the sunroom is, it's right off the den. So
yeah,
whenever anybody would come over to see mom,
didn't have to go through.
I mean, it was just I could hear everything. There was no privacy. There was no, you know, that's when you would go and stay in the bathroom for privacy and people thought you had a problem.
During this was during the portion of where your mom was sick and she was getting sicker, and the actively ignoring of not only a problem with the house, but a very specific problem with your area.
I used to tell people he would walk through this house like he had blinders on. Like, he only saw the areas that he occupied. He didn't see anything else. And a lot of the stuff that mom and I both tried to point out to him over the years are things that I've had to go through and fix, and I'm still in the process of fixing. Um, like the ceiling in the garage is collapsing. It's been collapsing for a few years. It's gotten worse. I've got to take care of that now. So it's all kinds of things. It's all kinds of things that add up to what your unique grief is going to be like.
Right.
It's never just the person dying. It's all the little things piled on top of all of that and some big things.
I was recently in a circle of on Zoom, and this woman was talking about the brazenness, the harshness, of her abusive father and how he had passed away, and the overwhelmingness of constantly having to clean up his messes. They were farmers, and him also teaching her how to work the land. Right. And so she was going through the metaphor of I'm having to put him in the ground with the shovel he taught me with, and having to look at it like, okay, yeah, I'm cleaning up his mess, but at the same time, he also taught me how to use the shovel. Like, and I'm looking at this situation where he left you with a bunch of mess, but he didn't tell you about any of it.
No,
There was no teaching about any of it.
no, it's been a fun Easter egg hunt to find all the things wrong with the house. It's and my dad also, everybody was like, I remember when my dad died, people were like, what are you going to do with all of his tools? And I was like, my dad didn't have any tools. My dad called the guy who had the tools. Like, he didn't do stuff himself. There might have been a hammer. There's about 20 screwdrivers because he forgot where he put one, so he would bring another one home from work. So I got plenty of screwdrivers out the wazoo, hammers. Do you know the Christmas before mom died? Do you know what mom gave me for Christmas? A toolbox with my own tools. That was mom's last Christmas gift to me. That's what I got. Come in handy, mom. She knew. Mom knew. Mom knew.
Here's the toolbox. Take care of the house.
I mean, right? Like, oh. But you know what though? I mean, for that to be the last thing that mom said to me, and I can't tell you the last thing she said to my brother or sister or my dad, but I know this is what the last thing she said to me. And she said some incoherent things after that to me, but for that to be the last thing that she knowingly said, okay, that's what you're gonna leave me with? That's okay.
You can take that phrase and say, oh, she meant the physical house. Oh, she meant my physical body, the house that I'm in. You can say it spiritually. Take care of the house. How many metaphors for house are there? How many different versions of house and home do we embody on a daily basis?
That's true.
Or did she simply mean
You knew my mother, what do you think?
now that the garage is completely detached from the house?
If I were to make a list of all the things that I've replaced or done, even in just like the few months after my dad died, I had to replace the stove because mom had that stove for 30 years and it just died. Died about 2 months after my dad died.
I mean,
2 years ago, I had to buy a new refrigerator
what is
because
that? Triple masters by now?
I mean, like, just so many things that and that's the thing, people are like, "Well, it's a house." I'm like, I remember telling people after my dad died, I was like, "I just need life to slow down a little bit." Like, I need nothing to happen. And I remember this one guy said this was at work one day, this customer who I knew, but he came in and he was asking how I was doing and everything, and I was telling him, and I said, I just want a breather. I just want nothing to happen for a while." And he said, "Well, that's not how life works. That's not how," and I just looked at him and I was like, "You don't understand how much I've had happen in the last 2 or 3 years. Like, you don't know. I need nothing to happen. I want nothing to happen. I want mundane. I want same routine every day. I will eat the same thing every day. I want nothing to happen
Yeah.
because everything was happening all at once. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Everything happened all at once. And I just there was no processing. You need space and time, and you need perspective in order to process. And perspective and processing sort of go hand in hand. Once you start to process, you'll get that different perspective. You know, the two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
And if you really want to get into a discussion about time, perspective is also.
And if we learned anything about time, we can just look at Marvel movies to let us know how time works.
Thanks, Loki. It's been an absolute pleasure. Let's do this again soon, bud.
Bye.
Good night, Doc.
That was such a great conversation with Dave over these last 4 episodes. You know, it's rare to be friends with someone you've quite literally known your entire life, but that's me and Dave. We've seen everything together. This whole podcast idea came about because of phone calls and FaceTime sessions that he and I would have over the last few years since my parents died. I told him one day that I thought other people might benefit from the things we discussed, whether it be grief, creativity, or just life in general. Hopefully, this podcast and the topics discussed here will be beneficial and relatable to you. It won't always be just me and Dave having a conversation. I'm really excited about some upcoming guests, some really great interviews with extraordinary people doing extraordinary things related to grief. I cannot wait for you to hear those episodes. Until then, please follow us on our socials, continue to like, share, subscribe, and follow us on this journey as we discuss all things big grief.